In the dynamics of relationships, I think holding someone's hand in a difficult moment can open up a window to a conversation or to a dialogue that otherwise might be difficult, if not impossible, to have.
Hello, everyone. This is Ekaterina with Trust Me Mom. And today I would like to welcome a book author who wrote about human touch. My guest today is Sasha, who is also known as Alex Simakovsky. And he wrote a really interesting book called More Than a Touch, Rediscover the Healing Power of Handholding. And it's such an important topic. A lot of us feel tactile hunger, especially after the pandemic times. So I would love to talk to Sasha about his book and what he learned through his research. Sasha, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Let's start with your story. What inspired you to write this book?
So, really, this idea kind of came to me one day, and maybe to your point surrounding post pandemic life, the digital wave that we're all riding, I had an idea that came to me about how when you're, in your youth, hand holding is such a intrinsic, natural, everyday, almost everyday occurrence, whether it's with a parent or with a friend. You're kind of holding hands, and it's really just kind of like a natural part of life. And then, in adulthood, maybe it's something that's becomes less common. Certainly, it's a spontaneous act, right? Like hand holding is typically spontaneous, but is there and are there opportunities to do it with more intention as adults? And that's kind of where my idea kind of started threading from. I also come from a background where I'm a first generation um, American. My parents are immigrants from the former Soviet Union, emigrated from that area of the world in the late 1970s. My father kind of born and raised in Russia, my mother from Ukraine. And I grew up with my father being a chiropractor, actually, and my mother working often as his office manager, kind of do it all staff member. I kind of grew up in a household that had this kind of holistic upbringing, alternative medicine to a degree. And, chiropractic at its very core is a touch-based medicine. So, this was very intrinsic to me growing up. And I don't know how much of that inspired this idea to come to me one day, but it's very interesting growing up in that type of environment where you're kind of surrounded not in conventional medicine, quote unquote, but more in the holistic style of wellness. And that really inspired me growing up. I'm very passionate about alternative medicine, supplementation, whole food eating, and I've learned a lot about that growing up. And, maybe that to some degree inspired, thinking behind this book and why I wanted to put it out into the world.
Well, that sounds like a very interesting background and upbringing. And it sounds like you've done a lot of research with different scientific studies in order to write this book. So, can you share a little bit about the process as well as we can dive into some of my favorite chapters and maybe you can share some of the insights that really stayed with you while you were writing the book?
Yeah, so the book obviously, while it focuses on handholding specifically, you'll find across the chapters that it's not solely handholding that's mentioned, but touch in general, how touch and that physical motion, that physical activity affects, the body in a physically manifested way. And, you know, these elements of touch, they affect how different stress hormones are released, oxytocin, cortisol, and the balance of all these different regulatory hormones. And so, of course, I did that general research to better understand touch and how it affects the body in a scientific way. And there's the book references these various scientific benefits and drawbacks when you're lacking that physical kind of connection. And of course, COVID affected a lot of people negatively in that way. Isolation it's a very interesting thing when you start to look into how that affects the physiology of human beings. So there's some information out there about hand holding specifically, and I did my best to, of course, research that and bring that subject matter into the book. But it also kind of expands more broadly into touch in general, and I think that that's kind of the natural way the book kind of transpired as I dive deeper into the research.
Very good. So let's talk about some of the chapters. Obviously, my favorite chapter is about some exercises for kids. Let's dive into parent and child dynamic and how this parent's touch can help soothe kids and make them feel loved, safe, and secure. So you have a few interesting exercises in the book that I would like to share with our audience.
There's a lot of good ones mentioned in the book. One of my main intentions for the book was to include practicable exercises that can be done in different situations, both with parent child and with partners and such. And look, in a household, there's a lot of dynamics at play. How you feel with your partner also affects your children. The dynamic in your children, of course, in the house, they see everything. So, the physical affection you have with your partner, this is something your children see and experience themselves. And in the same way, there are exercises and practices that you could do with children when they're going through bouts of anxiety or stress or having tantrums. And the book kind of mentions several practices that I think are pretty impactful. One that I like was the hand in hand breathing, which is basically, it's a really simple thing you can do. You kind of take your child's hand and you use your finger to trace around their palm to mimic their breathing. So you can ask your child to take deep breaths, and in doing so, you kind of draw your fingers over their palm in sync and in coordination with their breathing. And that really, you can see how that interplay between your movements and their breathing, how that kind of syncs together. There's also simple things you could do, like if a child is having a difficult moment, you kind of step beside them and you put your arms on their shoulders and you just apply some gentle pressure. And in that moment, the degree of pressure you apply, the few seconds that your hands are on their shoulders, they're going to feel that pressure on their shoulders, and it's just going to give them that little sense of separation from the moment and a little sense of relief from what they're experiencing in that moment, to know that they're supported, they're loved, and they're not alone in what they're experiencing in that moment. Those are two practices that I really think are simple to do and certainly can be helpful and easy to execute.
Can you demonstrate that hand in hand breathing? What does it look like?
Sure. So if you have like a hand here, right, you would just simply kind of draw your finger in rhythm with how your son or daughter, whatever age they are, and you kind of just ask them to breathe, and you can move your finger in sync with their breath, and and it kind of just creates a sensory experience that brings them, centers them, helps them understand their own breathing pattern, and also it's a bonding moment in that window itself.
Yes, it's almost syncing up with your child.
Yes.
And there are a lot of breathing exercises. I've seen a lot of books for kids about obviously square breathing, where you hold your breath for a few seconds, and a lot of them are tap, tap, tap on the fingers. But for some kids, especially kids on the spectrum, neurodivergent kids, it may not work well in the moment. I've seen kids throwing these books, refusing to slow down their breathing, but when a parent assists them, like you just described, they may be more receptive to it. So I really like this idea.
Yeah, and of course, any parent knows that when your child is brought into the world, any of that skin to skin contact is paramount and so beneficial to the brain development of infants. So things like the heart to heart cuddle, just bringing your child close, having your heartbeats, your chest against your child's chest, and just having your heartbeats kind of, if possible, develop a syncing rhythm. And there's even a derivative of that hand in hand holding exercise where you do it during story time. So you, as you're reading a story, you could also kind of execute a similar kind of touch, hand to hand touch during, while you're reading stories to your children at bedtime.
And I think you have mentioned in your book about the 30-second rule. What was that?
Well, I think 30 seconds is a minimum amount of time, we should devote, to these types of practices.
When you were doing this research for the book, was there something that really jumped at you that you didn't even realize was important?
Well, I think, yes, I think one thing that jumped out, and maybe this is less oriented towards parenting, but in the dynamics of relationships, I think holding someone's hand in a difficult moment can open up a window to a conversation or to a dialogue that otherwise might be difficult, if not impossible, to have. I can think back, and there's actually a related story in the book where a couple is sitting in a car and they're having a difficult time as a couple, and there's a history there. There's maybe some difficulty in the relationship that's happening, and a person reaches out and holds the other one's hand, and suddenly there's at least a relinquishment, a reset of the bond there. And I can remember a time, personal story with, at the time, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, where, we were going through a tough period. And, we had this one day where we sat down together. We're like, are we gonna, is this gonna work out type of situation, right? And I can remember, and actually this came to me today, that I can remember in that moment that it was reaching out, and I don't remember, this was some time ago, but I don't remember if it was me putting my hand on her leg or us kind of just holding hands, that it had a similar effect, right? It allowed us to really reset in that moment, and it kind of showed to each other the devotion we have to each other. And from that moment, the whole conversation reset, and we were able to kind of chart a path forward. And so I really think it's the power of touch, whether it's holding hands or other aspects of touch, especially in the digital age when we rely so much on conference calls, Zoom meetings, long distance relationships, that how much of a grounding effect just reaching out and holding somebody's hand could have in so many different scenarios.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. And you also have an interesting chapter about cultural differences and what it can mean uh, in different countries and in different cultural aspects. So let's touch on some of the most interesting stories that you found.
Sure. Yeah. So it's not uncommon in other countries, India or in Southeast Asia, for example, for acquaintances, friends of same sex to be holding hands or walking down the street arm in arm. And it just, I think it's a wonderful thing to highlight for us all to remember that the cultural differences is a beautiful thing around the world. If you consider how even some of these cultural norms, as society progresses, and you have different influences from popular culture and other cultures infusing with those cultures and those ancient heritages, that even some of these practices now have become less observed because maybe people are more self-conscious. To men or boys in a country in Southeast Asia, they might be watching more, I don't know, American television and start thinking that this is not such a important or okay thing to do. And I think it's actually, we should preserve, we should seek to preserve and enhance these very human interactions, and we should not look to feel self-conscious if you want to express yourself in a physical way, in obviously in a safe, in a constructive and a beneficial physical way. I think we should always to be looking to do more of that and not less of that. The book also covers kind of hand holding in ancient times in different cultures. Go back to ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. You see that there are even shrines and pottery where you see hands clasped. This has always been a signifier of trust, of integrity in different ancient cultures. I think it all helps to remind us of how historic this act is of handholding, how it's been in an integral part of history in different cultures, and there's a reason for it.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious, do you have a favorite chapter in the book?
A favorite chapter, it's my book, so it's all my favorite, but
That's fair.
I think that the closing chapters are probably my favorite because it kind of wraps up all the different topics and themes within the book and then ties it back to now we're in this age of digital, now even more so in the age of AI. And while, again, as I mentioned earlier in our interview, that hand holding is often kind of something that's done sporadically in the moment, we could all do a little bit more to practice it more intentionally. My wife and I, for example, after I did my research and kind of went down this path of writing my first ever book, we make it intentional even in just those basic moments. If we have a window to like watch a favorite show after we put our kids to bed, we'll try to hold hands and as we're watching the show, and that's just one simple thing that you could do. So I would say probably the closing chapters and how hand holding applies in the modern world we live in. It's probably the most important. Um, but also the stories within the book and the practical exercises are all kind of my favorite elements.
Yes. So as we're closing our conversation, would you like to share your favorite story from the book? I know there are quite a few. So which one, if you have to pick one that you want to share with the audience, which one would you
Um,
choose?
well, there's a story. There's a story of kind of a daughter and a father where there's obviously a deep love between them, but their nature has always been love at a distance. There wasn't a lot of intimacy, let's say. That's kind of how the story is framed. Not a ton of physical intimacy in their relationship as a father and daughter. And life gets in the way. You grow up, work, this, that, and the other gets in the way, and distance increases more often than it we come together kind of naturally. And in the story, there's like a moment where they grasp hands. And it's such a powerful moment for her because in that moment, she realizes that all these other things are kind of meaningless. And this is kind of in that moment, that physical connection reminded her of that special bond that they have. And that's the power of hand holding. I think it's one of these physical expressions. People might steer towards hugging. Hugging feels great too, and it's not one or the other. But I think there's a special place for hand holding in as a simple gesture and how powerful it could be. I mean, even think about book even dives into, and I did some research about the pressure of a handhold. Right? There's even the subtle differences, whether you're holding somebody's hand softly or there's a firmness in the grip, all these micro adjustments, all these micro elements in the handhold, they mean different things and they affect our physiology in different ways. And I think that's something worth thinking about because it's a simple gesture, but it carries so much weight and so much meaning in how it's done, when it's done, the situation, the moment that it's done in. And to me, it begs the question: could we all be doing it with a little bit more intention to help us feel better and improve our relationships? And certainly with our children, this is a huge opportunity that we should all look at more closely.
I love it. Thank you so much, Alex.
Of course. Thank you for having me and thank you for reading the book. And I really appreciate this opportunity.